From Patrick Mahomes Sr. clashing with John Rocker on Bourbon Street, to DK Metcalf's massive lawsuit after a fan incident, to Antonio Brown fighting off an armed jewelry heist in Miami. Today, we break down the wildest off-field confrontations, most shocking entry, a Hall of Fame linebacker who put a nightclub bouncer in the hospital over VIP bottle service. Let's begin. The most viral moment, Patrick Mahomes Sr. versus John Rocker, Bourbon Street, Super Bowl week in New Orleans. The whole football world is in one city. Cameras everywhere. And right in the middle of it all, a video hit, the internet that stops the scroll. A heated altercation between former MLB pitchers, John Rocker and Patrick Mahomes Sr., the father of Kansas City Chiefs quarterback. Patrick Mahomes II went viral after the two were seen in a verbal confrontation on Bourbon Street. And we're not talking a quick exchange of words. The incident almost escalated into a physical fight before bystanders intervened to separate them. A video shows Rocker holding a drink and approaching Mahomes Sr., shouting, "What's up, dude?" Rocker appears to attempt to shake his hand, but Mahomes Sr. reacts aggressively, seemingly shouting something back before the two begin, yelling expletives at one another, while people step in to separate them. Then, just to make sure the internet had everything it needed as Mahomes Sr. was pulled away, Rocker threw a cup of ice in his direction before walking off. The clip spread everywhere. Every sports channel, every podcast, every group chat, because this wasn't just any brawl on Bourbon Street. This was the father of the most famous quarterback on the planet in the middle of Super Bowl week in a street confrontation with one of the most controversial figures in baseball history. So who exactly is John Rocker, and why does any of this matter? Rocker has a long history of controversy, dating back to his infamous 1999 Sports Illustrated interview, where he made racist and homophobic remarks about New Yorkers. He insulted New York City's diversity, disparaged immigrants, and even used racial slurs against a former teammate. The comments led to a suspension by MLB and further cemented his reputation as one of the most reviled figures in baseball history. So Rocker was no stranger to being in the middle of controversy. But this time, he picked the wrong family to step to, at least publicly. The exact cause of the confrontation remains unclear. But Rocker had posted several tweets criticizing Patrick Mahomes Jr. In the days leading up to the Super Bowl, he tweeted, "Patrick Mahomes sucks," followed by other derogatory remarks, including a suggestive comment about Mahomes and NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. So by the time those two crossed paths on Bourbon Street, there was already bad blood in the air. After the video blew up, both men went to war on social media. Rocker and Mahomes Sr. attacked each other online. "This flicking loser can't take a damn joke," Rocker wrote. Mahomes Sr. fired back, "You really haven't changed one bit in the last 25 years. Keep my name out your loud mouth." Rocker then responded, "You wouldn't have had the balls to say that to my face the other night." Then the probation piece came in. Mahomes Sr. is serving 5 years of probation after pleading guilty to his third driving while intoxicated charge. As part of his sentencing, he is under 1 year of intense supervision. So for him to be in New Orleans, brawling on Bourbon Street during Super Bowl week, that was a serious problem. But when officials questioned him about his trip, he confessed that the incident with Rocker was a staged altercation to get publicity for a celebrity boxing match set to take place. In April 2025, he had been allowed to travel to Louisiana to watch his son play in the Super Bowl from February 7 to February 10. So, was it real? Was it staged? Court documents included a Barstool Sports Rough and Rowdy contract showing Mahomes Sr. and Rocker had agreed to a fight weeks before the Bourbon Street incident. His pay for the fight was set to start at $85.00, with potential increases depending on final pay-per-view numbers. Here's what made the whole thing almost poetic though. Despite both men having played in the MLB during the same era, they were never teammates and had no known history of personal animosity before this confrontation. Two men who barely knew each other, manufacturing a street confrontation in front of the entire sports world, and it worked. The internet ate it up, and now Mahomes Sr.'s name was attached to a storyline that had absolutely nothing to do with his son throwing touchdown passes, which, given that his son was the reason he was in New Orleans in the first place, is saying something. His son has not commented on the situation, and you can't really blame him. Part 2. The fan who became a lawsuit. DK Metcalf versus Ryan Kennedy. If the Bourbon Street scene was spectacle, what happened at Ford Field on December 21, 2025 was something else entirely. A regular afternoon of NFL football. A Lions home game. A fan in the front row with a jersey. And then one moment that turned into a 2-game suspension, a $100 million lawsuit, and a national debate that's still playing out in the courts. Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver DK Metcalf was suspended 2 games without pay by the NFL for initiating a physical confrontation with a fan during the game at the Detroit Lions. The video was immediate, unavoidable. The 28-year-old was seen walking over to Kennedy, grabbing his shirt and throwing a punch. But how exactly did we get there? According to Kennedy's legal team, he called Metcalf by his first name and asked him for an autograph on a Steelers jersey before Metcalf approached him. Kennedy told reporters that he called Metcalf by his full name, Decalen Zacharias Metcalf, and that prompted the interaction, where Metcalf walked over to the fan in the front row and grabbed him by his shirt collar. Metcalf then forcefully released Kennedy, shoving him back. Now, here's where it gets complicated. A source close to Metcalf told the NFL that Kennedy had directed racial slurs at him and said something derogatory about his mother. Kennedy denied it completely. His attorney said in a statement, Ryan Kennedy did not use the N-word, Ryan. Kennedy did not use the C-word, and he did not use any racial slurs whatsoever at any time. Those claims are absolutely false and are not supported by any audio, video, or eyewitness statements from Ford Field personnel. Then Chad Ochocinco Johnson got involved, and that's when things really escalated. The lawsuit alleges Johnson made several false, reckless, and defamatory statements about Kennedy during an episode of the Nightcap podcast. In the episode, the day after the incident, Johnson said he was told by a reliable source who wears no for that Kennedy used racial slurs toward Metcalf and his mother. That podcast clip spread fast. And for Ryan Kennedy, a lifelong Lions season ticket holder sitting in his front row seat, life changed overnight. Kennedy experienced harassment, threats, and messages advocating violence after reports began circulating on social media that he had used a racial slur. He said the accusations led to harassment and threats against him and his family. Kennedy and his legal team filed the $100 million defamation lawsuit against Metcalf, Chad Ochocinco Johnson, and Shannon Sharp's media company Shay Media. The filing outlines 9 counts, including negligence against Ford Field and multiple defamation claims against Metcalf, Johnson, and Shay Media. And here's a detail that didn't get nearly enough attention. Metcalf and this fan had a history. Metcalf reported the same fan to Seahawks security the previous season when he played for Seattle. The Seahawks played at Detroit during the 2024 season. So this wasn't Metcalf randomly snapping at a stranger. There was a pattern, at least from his perspective, but a pattern doesn't give you the legal right to reach into the stands and grab a spectator. The NFL suspended Metcalf for 2 games without pay for violating league rules, a decision the league upheld after Metcalf appealed. Missing those games meant potentially sitting out the Week 18 game between the Steelers and Ravens, which could have been for the AFC North title. Kennedy is also taking legal action against the Steelers for the team's alleged liability, while Metcalf is accused of committing assault and battery in the lawsuit. So what? Started as a fan holding a jersey in the front row, ended with a $100 million lawsuit, a 2-game suspension, a national racial slur debate, and a player now dealing with the fallout in both the courts and the locker room. The fan thought he was getting an autograph. He got something much bigger. Part 3. The night someone tried to rob Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown's story has never been simple. From the most electric wide receiver of his generation to a career defined as much by chaos as by catches, the man has always been surrounded by noise, but what happened in Miami in May 2025 wasn't noise. It was a shooting, and it started because someone thought they could rob him. Brown said on social media that he was attending a celebrity boxing event when several people allegedly tried to rob him. He said he was jumped by multiple individuals who tried to steal his jewelry and cause physical harm to him. A video posted online shows him fighting back. Then things escalated far beyond a street fight. Brown is accused of grabbing a handgun from a security staffer after the celebrity boxing match in Miami and firing 2 shots at a man he had gotten into a fistfight with earlier, according to an arrest warrant. The victim said one of the bullets grazed his neck. Antonio Brown was arrested on an attempted murder charge stemming from the shooting after that celebrity boxing event in Miami. He was charged with attempted second-degree murder with a firearm and faces up to 30 years in prison if convicted. Now Brown's legal team pushed back with a defense that carried its own dramatic backstory. His attorney asked a judge to dismiss the case, citing Florida's Stand Your Ground law, arguing that Brown believed the alleged victim intended to cause him serious harm. The actions he was forced to take were solely in self-defense against the alleged victim's violent behavior. Brown was attacked that night and acted within his legal right to protect himself, his lawyer said. But then came the details that made Brown's version of events more complicated and more layered. The Stand Your Ground motion alleged that the man who confronted Brown that night had also attacked him backstage at a 2023 Rolling Loud event and was jailed in Dubai in 2022 for stealing Brown's jewelry. The motion also claimed this individual had publicly issued threats at Brown, including stating, "Your days are numbered." So if that version of events is accurate, this wasn't a random robbery attempt. This was an ongoing feud between Brown and someone who had targeted him multiple times across multiple cities and multiple years. And on that night in Miami, in the chaos outside a boxing venue, everything came to a head. Brown was not immediately arrested that night because police initially did not identify the alleged victim. It wasn't until days later that the full statement was given to police and Brown was identified as the shooter. Body cam footage eventually released showed Brown in handcuffs inside a police cruiser, complaining about his injuries and questioning why. He was restrained at one point, begging the officer to use the bathroom and asking him to check the cut on his knee. A second-degree attempted murder charge carries a maximum 15-year prison sentence and up to a $10 fine in the event of a conviction. Whatever the outcome, one fact is clear. The person who tried to confront Antonio Brown that night in Miami, whether they saw a target or an enemy, did not walk away from it clean. The bullet grazed his neck, and now the whole situation sits in a Florida courtroom. Brown has dealt with several legal problems over the years, including accusations of battery against a moving truck driver, multiple domestic violence charges, failure to pay child support, and other incidents. But this is different. This is attempted murder territory. And the man who used to outrun every cornerback in the league is now running out of legal room. Part 4, Cam Newton and the Youth Football War. Of all the entries on this list, this one might be the most unexpected because it didn't happen on an NFL field or in a nightclub or outside a Miami boxing venue. It happened at a youth football tournament, a 7-on-7 event, kids playing football on a Saturday afternoon, and Cam Newton was right in the middle of it. Newton said that trash talk during a game involving a team from his C1N organization carried over off the football field, leading to the altercation. The game pitted the under-18 7-on-7 team from his organization against a team from football training organization Top Shelf Performance. Whatever was said between those teams clearly didn't stay on the field, because when the whistle blew, it wasn't over. A confrontation after the game turned physical, with Top Shelf claiming afterward that Newton put his hands on its coaches first. A short clip of Newton scuffling with 3 other figures went viral on social media shortly after the incident. The fight was quickly broken up by security, and Newton and the other parties were ejected from the tournament. Now here's the part that caught most people off guard. Newton did not throw any punches and appeared to try to fend off some attackers. Most of the reaction on social media wasn't overly critical of Newton. but rather amazement about how neither he nor his trademark elaborate hat seemed to suffer much harm despite fighting off multiple attackers at once. That detail alone tells you everything. Multiple people rushing Cam Newton, a former NFL MVP, a man who spent over a decade playing the most physical position in the sport, and the hat survived. The man survived. The attackers, on the other hand, found out very quickly that whatever they thought was going to happen didn't quite go according to plan. Newton later came out and addressed it directly. He apologized, not because he felt he was entirely in the wrong, but because of what he felt the moment represented on a bigger level. He said he regrets the incident because he believes it perpetuates a stereotype. It's echoing something that has been permeating for years: black people, Newton said. Why does it got to be at a black event? He made clear he wasn't going to play the victim, but he also wasn't going to pretend the moment didn't carry weight beyond the punches thrown. The C1N organization Newton runs is based in Atlanta, his hometown. He founded it in 2021, the same year he played his final game with the Carolina Panthers. So this wasn't a weekend hobby. This is a program he built from the ground up, designed to give young athletes structure and a path forward. And watching that program become the center of a viral brawl was clearly not something he took lightly. What makes this entry stand out isn't the brawl itself, it's the context. Because if you look at who was in the middle of that fight, you had a former #1 overall pick, a former NFL MVP, a guy who spent the better part of a decade being one of the most physically dominant players the league had ever seen. The coaches from Top Shelf Performance walked into that altercation thinking they were dealing with a football organizer at a kids' tournament. What they got was someone who had been in far more violent collisions every single Sunday for over a decade. Newton won the 2015 NFL MVP after winning the 2010 Heisman Trophy and leading Auburn to a national championship. He's been hit harder than almost any quarterback in recent memory. A Saturday scuffle at a 7-on-7 tournament was not going to rattle him, but it would rattle his reputation, and that's what he was most worried about. The fight was a reminder that when you step to someone connected to the NFL, even at a youth event on a grass field in Atlanta, you might be stepping to someone with an entirely different set of reflexes than you expected. Part 5, when the stands became the danger zone: Lamar Jackson, Quentin Jefferson, and the fans who crossed the line. The last category on this list doesn't involve a street, a boxing event, or a youth tournament. It happens inside NFL stadiums, in front of tens of thousands of people, with cameras pointed everywhere. And yet, year after year, fans keep crossing the line, and players keep reminding them why that's a terrible idea. Start with Lamar Jackson, one of the most celebrated quarterbacks playing the game right now. Season opener, Baltimore Ravens on the road. Jackson connects on a 29-yard touchdown pass to DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers of his generation. Jackson is celebrating. The moment is pure football joy. And then a fan reaches over the railing and hits him. During Baltimore's season-opening loss to the Bills, Lamar Jackson shoved a fan who had hit him while he was celebrating a 29-yard touchdown pass to DeAndre Hopkins. The NFL chose not to discipline Jackson. And honestly, why would they? The man was celebrating a touchdown and a stranger put their hands on him. Jackson addressed it afterward with the kind of composure you'd expect from a two-time MVP. He said, "Just chill next time. You can talk trash and stuff, but keep your hands to yourself." He added, "Stuff like that shouldn't be happening. It's not WWE. We're playing football out here." And then, almost on cue, about 10 minutes later, Derrick Henry almost got smacked with a frozen water bottle, showing how fast things can get out of hand. One play, two incidents, same game. A frozen water bottle aimed at one of the most powerful running backs in NFL history, a man who has been described as running through defenders the way a wrecking ball moves through drywall. Nobody in that stadium stopped to think about what happens if that bottle actually connects and he looks up into the stands. Now go back a few years, Seattle Seahawks at Jacksonville. A fan got into an altercation with Seahawks defensive lineman Quentin Jefferson. A fan threw a beverage at Jefferson as he headed to the tunnel to exit the field. Jefferson immediately reacted, approaching the fan and confronting him before being pulled away by staff members. And then it got worse, as the situation began to calm down. Another fan threw a drink at the defensive tackle. This led to him attempting to scale the wall and enter the stands. Scale the wall, enter the stands. Let that sit for a second. Quentin Jefferson, a defensive lineman, one of the biggest and most powerful human beings in the building, was about to climb into the crowd. Fortunately, security prevented him from doing so, because if they hadn't, whatever happened next would have been very different from throwing a drink at a player. The common thread across every entry in this list is the same one. Somebody underestimated who they were dealing with. Rocker thought he could embarrass the Mahomes name in public and walk away clean. The Detroit fan thought a front row encounter with DK Metcalf was going to go one particular way. The people who jumped Antonio Brown outside a Miami boxing venue thought they were picking an easy target. The coaches at that Atlanta youth tournament thought they were stepping to a retired quarterback at a kid's game. The fans throwing drinks at Jefferson thought the wall between the stands and the field was an invisible shield. It never is. Most of the time, players are able to remain professional and ignore whatever comes at them, regardless of how inappropriate or obnoxious it may be. But every once in a while, they push back. And when they do, when Metcalf reaches into the stands, when Brown pulls out a firearm and security footage catches everything, when Cam Newton stands at the center of a brawl and his hat doesn't even move, the story stops being about the person who threw the first punch or the first drink or the first insult. It becomes about the moment they found out who they were really dealing with. The DK Metcalf situation is still working its way through the legal system. The lawsuit seeks $100 million in damages and names Metcalf, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Ford Field. Antonio Brown faces up to 30 years in prison if convicted on the attempted murder charge. Cam Newton's organization is still running programs for kids in Atlanta. Lamar Jackson is still the most electric quarterback in the AFC. And Patrick Mahomes Sr. is reportedly set to step into a boxing ring with John Rocker, with a payout starting at $85, $0, and potentially higher, depending on pay-per-view numbers. So maybe the real lesson here is simple. The NFL is the most physically demanding sport on the planet. The men who play it, or who raise the men who play it, are built differently, trained differently, and conditioned to respond to pressure in ways most people aren't. Every single entry on this list started with someone thinking they had the upper hand. Not one of them finished that way.